Harrison Ford was way old when they got to the fourth movie, and by the fifth entry, he was digitally de-aged and CGI for no goddamn reason. They should have stopped after the third, but because they made a lot of money, we continue to milk the Indiana Jones franchise, even though this doesn't look like milking it. Looks like I'm gripping his idol for no reason. I'm John Renton with By the Numbers, Episode 8 on the Indiana Jones franchise. Can't imagine that intro is going to bite me in the ass, but anyway, yes, By the Numbers, Episode 8. If you're unfamiliar with the By the Numbers concept, budget, opening, domestic, worldwide, audience, and critical reception, all that stuff's factored in, and because, well, enough of these movies were old, we're going to use the inflation calculator model and talk about all this stuff. I retro-reviewed the previous four and did review Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. But yeah, this one, this only has the first four. I don't think I'm going to get the one that has Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, even for completionist sakes. But yes, the Indiana Jones movies. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. There are a lot of people that might hate every single one of them. I mean, I don't know how. I would think that the vast majority of people really like the first three. And depending on how you rank them, I rank them as Last Crusade, Indy 1, and then Temple of Doom, and then we go Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, we go Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and then we go all the way down to the depths of the earth for Dial of Destiny. But Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark in 1981. $18 million budget, which would be just over $60 million in today's money. And for 1981, that was a lot of fucking money. That was a lot of money. I'm not saying that's the most expensive movie of all time, but it was pretty goddamn expensive. And it was a risk. Harrison Ford coming off of the previous two Star Wars entries. But the opening was a success. 8.3 million, so okay. Not quite, half its budget, but nevertheless, and which would be $27.7 million in today's money. And obviously it did well, clearly, because the domestic gross was $248.1 million, which would be $830 million in today's money. Worldwide gross of just about $390 million, which would be $1.3 billion in today's money. Big goddamn deal. And I did talk about some of these facts and figures on my retro reviews, and you should totally check those out, by the way, because I go in depth on these movies. But the audience reception, 96%, 8.4 on IMDb, critical reception, 93%, 85 on Metacritic, so really, really highly touted. Pretty much the most highly touted of the Indy franchise. Now, that's not to say, again, the next entries weren't really goddamn great, but this was the most highly touted one. And we go to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Good old Morbo. Anyway, the budget was $28 million, so they've said, here's $10 million more, Spielberg, which would be just about $82 million in today's money. Opening weekend of 25.3. So everybody's like, hey, we enjoyed the first one. Let's tune out more. Let's turn out more for this one and make it 3 times what the gross was for the first one, which would be $74 million in today's money. Domestic gross, $179.8 million. Not as much. Not as big. That's a little disappointing, actually. That was down almost $60 million. Actually, let's see. That was down almost $70 million, actually, now I'm doing the math in my head. I can math. I'm learning. $526.2 million in today's money. And then we go worldwide gross, $333.1 million, $975 million in today's money. Okay, so it still was a smash success and ended up being just $56 million below the total worldwide gross of the first one. So not bad, but Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom was not as well received. It was well received as far as Still being a great indie action movie, but it did also have some horror elements about it, like Kalima, Kalima. 82% audience reception, 7.5 on IMDb. 14% lower than the previous one. 77% critical reception, 57 on Metacritic. Okay, so a little bit lower and not exactly that great. Not that great. Because it seemed like we were trending downwards. We were going down in an earlier round, and maybe we'll go down swinging, and it's number one with a bullet, and then we got to the Kingdom Crystal Skull, and I felt like cocking and pulling. That probably could have been worded a whole lot better, but let's get to Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, 1989. $48 million, for the budget. $117.7 million budget in today's money. Big, beefier, there we go. Opening was 29.3, so okay, they said, we still enjoyed The Last Crusade, or we still enjoy Temple of Doom, let's make The Last Crusade bigger. That would be $71.8 million in today's money. And the domestic gross, $197.1 million, which would be $484 million. So, bigger than the first one, or bigger than the second one at least. Not as big as the first one, but still back on track. $474.1 million for the worldwide gross. $1.16 billion, that's with a B, just in case B and M gets mixed up for you. And if you mix up your BM, you probably should take Imodium properly. But a 94% audience rating, and then we get an 8.2 audience rating on IMDb. We get an 84% critical rating and 65 on Metacritic. So, okay, so far so good. We are doing great with the indie franchise. And then, but in all honesty, Last Crusade really was goddamn great. The chemistry between him and Sean Connery, the blonde, sweet Christ. Look at her now. Look at her now. Look up her name. Look at her then. Look at her now. She doesn't look any different. She looks incredible. But yes, now we get to Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, and oh boy. Oh boy. Now, upon further reflection, this movie's still shit. I did rewatch it, and relying on CGI is one thing. You had to rely on obvious cutaways and stunt doubles and all that, because Harrison Ford at this point was approaching 70, or at least in his mid-60s. And I don't care how great a shape you're in, you shouldn't be doing stuff that he was doing here, so it was obvious. It was obvious stunt doubles and hiding in the refrigerator to get away from the nuclear blast and all that, and yeah. Plus Shia LaBeouf. Yeah. Cate Blanchett as a foreign menace, willing to step on her victims. Me next. Moving on from that, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, $185 million budget. You fucking what? Oh yeah, they had to devote some of that money to Shia LaBeouf swinging with monkeys for some reason. They should have put him in the Tarzan movie that they did a few years ago. It's not like it could have done any worse. But yes, it'd be like a $261 million budget as of today, or in today's money. The opening was $100 million, so okay, people were excited to see another Indiana Jones movie, which would be $141.3 million in today's money. Not exactly rip-roaring, but nevertheless, it was what it was. Then we get to the domestic gross, which was $317.1 million, which, yes, is bigger than any of the previous entries, but they also, even if you factor that in, even if you factor Last Crusade didn't cost nearly that much, adjusted for today's money. And basically $448 million, in today's money, and then we get a worldwide gross of $790.6 million, $1.1 billion with a B again. Again, don't mix up your B's and M's, and don't mix up your M&M's, or you will have a B and M. Let's move on from this. Audience reception, 53%. Yeah, that's about right, because there were some good moments. John Hurt, pretty much acting like John Hurt usually would. 6.2 million. 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb, a 77% critical reception, and a 65 on Metacritic. So far, so good. Trending downwards, but you know what? It still made money. it made it made like 4 times its budget at least. And even with marketing, it was still successful. Now, I'm sure they probably thought that the worldwide gross would be $1 billion, not adjusted for inflation later on. But at least they did that. So let's see how Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny did. Oh, okay. The fact that this movie cost a reported $295 million, well, 294.7, but if that does include marketing, it's ridiculous. If it doesn't include marketing, it's even more ridiculous. I would like to know where the $295 million went for this. Was it all to CGI? Was it all to keep Harrison Ford awake during takes? Because I love Harrison Ford, but this movie is painfully unnecessary and a goddamn abomination. I hate it. I ranted about it for goddamn 20 minutes. Maybe more. But $295 million. The instant I saw that was the budget, I thought if they did $200 million, okay, it probably wouldn't have been as big of a flop, because this was a flop. As far as marketing, as far as all this stuff and everything, it might have broken even. Might have. And I think that's being generous. But it opened with $60 million, which probably wasn't what Disney wanted. Disney probably wanted it to open with twice that, but it didn't. It had it opened up before Into the Spider-Verse. Had this opened up in the beginning of May, it probably would have had a better chance to succeed. Seriously, I think it would have actually done a lot better. It would have had a month it could have built, except for the fact that Dial of Destiny is absolute goddamn shit. So anyway, domestic gross is $174.3 million. Ouch. A worldwide gross of $382.2 million. No adjusting, because this movie literally just came out a couple months ago. And the fact that this movie even made $382 million worldwide is a fucking miracle, because it wasn't good. However, the audience reception way higher for this one than Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, which I don't understand. But that's fine. Everybody likes different things. 88% and a 6.7 on IMDb. And then 69% for the critical reception and 58 on Metacritic. And that's pretty much it for the Indiana Jones franchise right there. It's just, in all seriousness, like, Dial of Destiny just didn't have that nostalgia twinge that they were going for. I'm not going to spoil it just in case anybody hasn't seen it. But as far as the flipping around of history and all that, and the fact that this movie was 2 hours and 34 minutes when it really, quite frankly, should have been 20 to 25 minutes less. There is no reason why this particular movie was so goddamn long. Yes, they had a long opening sequence on a train, and they did all that, and they wanted to build some stuff. The problem is the action scenes were really dog shit. Like, the CGI was not good. It did not look alive. There were a lot of green screen effects, which is fine. I understand that they have to do certain things. They can't shut down cities and shut down blocks and do all this stuff, but the vintage cars were cool, and it was nice that Harrison Ford got to send off Indy the way he wanted. But Jesus goddamn Christ, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was fucking dog shit. It started all the way up here, and then went all the way, and went here, and then, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull sent it down, and now it's over there. It's over there, and I think it's in the Earth's core, and there's Hilary Swank and Thomas Jane. So yeah, the Indiana Jones franchise ended with a whimper. Barely a whimper. It was more like gas being released from a diseased corpse. So yeah, what'd you think of the Indiana Jones movies? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.